Yeah, could you tell us a little bit about Feed Avalon and what it does and maybe who works for Feed Avalon?
Sure. So Feed Avalon is like a social enterprise based in Glastonbury and Street and sort of the surrounding villages in Somerset. There's 5 of us in the co-op, myself, actually my mum, Michelle, and she does the sort of catering at events and a lot of food growing, managing our land project here. Bon, who runs our community garden and like a mushroom growing project and a remediation project. Hannah, who built our community kitchen from scratch, and Julia, who teaches our cooking courses.
Okay, what was your kind of main motivation for starting it up?
So,
or your kind of goals or aims sort of thing?
Yeah, so I guess the kind of motivation was this desire to do kind of like longer term like infrastructural work in terms of like rebuilding soil locally, like rebuilding kind of local food markets, rebuilding relationships, and our kind of idea is to try and like create sort of socially just, ecologically sound food production, and we wanted to focus on like a small area that was kind of like achievable. You know, it wasn't like county-wide, it was just 2 small market towns, the surrounding villages, how can we feed ourselves and what does that look like, and that's what we've been doing really.
Okay, great, thank you. Excuse me, in terms of the kind of survey and observation stage of kind of design, what kind of information did you kind of need to gather about, you know, maybe about the community or the people involved or, I don't know, whatever?
Yeah, so we spent like a whole year doing the business planning, which was our kind of survey stage. Yeah, we did a whole bunch of stuff. Like I remember doing sort of a survey around Somerset. I was working for a charity called Somerset Community Food at the time, and we kind of, yeah, had a bit of funding to like help design Feed Avalon, so we were able to do a lot more sort of like research. But like a huge amount of the observations just came from like growing up in the area and seeing over years like what the needs were. So like knowing that Glastonbury, for example, has like a really high number of like single parents, knowing that there's like a huge amount of rural poverty, knowing like the areas in the neighbourhoods where there is like a lot more poverty, like we've been able to kind of tailor our work because everyone involved in Feed Avalon is like from the area, maybe not originally, but has lived in the area, has got relationships here, and that's been like really powerful in helping us to see what kind of things we'd like to do and what interventions are necessary. So it's been a very like bottom-up process, and surveying really has been about like listening to our community and seeing like really what's needed.
And were there any particular kind of challenges that you faced with the project?
There's definitely been challenges in terms of sort of like precarious income levels. So like, yeah, kind of this real tension between like grassroots fundraising and grant funding and trading, and like how to balance those sort of income streams without becoming like this really top heavy charity that like needs loads of money and has loads of staff. So like we've really had to just like work up from the bottom, you know. Like the first year I think I paid myself like £400 a month or something, and I was like really working like 40-50 hours a week doing loads of work and not getting paid for it. But now over time like that model's changed and we've had this kind of succession, and now we are able to pay ourselves and we are able to balance the books, and and that's basically been achieved through design.
Okay, and that's what I was going to ask you about. You know, would you say you like kind of consciously apply kind of permaculture design to the project, and maybe you could talk a little bit about how that's worked? Or,
yeah, for sure.
Not?
So yeah, like permaculture's kind of influenced Feed Avalon in like a whole bunch of ways. So like me and the original person, Louise, who designed Feed Avalon, like we did use a design process which was actually like Go Sadim, but just like consciously through the management of Feed Avalon we kind of use design tools. So for example, like at every monthly meeting we'll reflect on like what's been going well and what's been challenging. We'll spend a lot of time at the beginning of the year kind of intensively designing the next year and what we want to achieve and what projects we want to focus on. and we make sure that like at the end of the year, like we really do quite a heavy amount of reflection to kind of like tweak what's been going well. But we don't just do the reflection at the end of the year, we also do it every month, and that means that we're kind of like a bit more agile and we're able to like respond to feedback faster and like redesign as a crew like what we're doing.
Okay, great, thank you. And last couple of questions really. Would you say you kind of met the outcomes that you started out with when you reflecting your original kind of goals and aims, or?
Yeah, I think we're on the way to it. So like we've really taken this like small and slow approach of just building up our projects one by one and building up our relationships one by one, and developing income streams like bit by bit. And that's meant that like maybe on the surface like there hasn't been like huge achievement, but actually it's like sustainable what we've been achieving. So like we have a community kitchen, which is like infrastructure for local producers to use to like make products and things. We have like events there in people's kitchens. We have a community garden. We have like a mushroom lab, and we're going to be growing mushrooms to sell. We manage this 4-acre demonstration site. We have a wildflower park. Like we have a good website, and we organise courses for like 150 people every year. So it's like actually we are achieving loads, and that feels great. And I don't think we would have been able to do that without this kind of like design process and planning it really well at the start.
Right. And my last question, you kind of answered it already, was do you feel your project is of value to the wider community?
Yeah, I hope so. I feel like in our area, or like maybe in all areas, lots of organisations start or projects start with these like grand plans, but they're not sustainable because either they're dependent on some big grant funding, or they're not really what the community wants, so therefore like they don't survive long. So like I feel like the fact that we've been going 4 years now and we're still like solvent, we still have active projects and we still have a good reputation, does kind of like highlight that like we are having a positive impact and we are sort of needed in our area.
Great, thank you very much, and thanks for your time.
No worries.
Okay.